Ambassador Park Dong-woo stood in the Great Hall of Nexus Prime, looking up at the 12 massive thrones that held the most powerful beings in the galaxy. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. Today would decide if humans could join the Galactic Federation or remain alone in space. The hall was huge, with walls that seemed to stretch forever upward. Strange lights danced across the ceiling and the air hummed with alien technology. Park had been here many times over the past 3 years, but today felt different. Today was the final vote. Dr. Kim Sora stood beside him, her tablet recording everything. She was Earth's best expert on alien life, and she had studied each council member carefully. The tall, blue-skinned Velok sat in the center throne. His forearms moved slowly as he spoke. The snake-like Sethrans coiled around their crystal seats. The rock-like Gorlans sat perfectly still, their red eyes glowing. "Humans of Earth," Velox's voice boomed through the hall. "We have watched your species for many cycles. We have seen your wars, your destruction, your violence. We have also seen your attempts at peace and growth." Park felt hope rise in his chest. Maybe the council had seen how much humans had changed. Maybe they understood that Earth was ready to join the galaxy. "You have provided aid to worlds in need," Velox continued. "You have shared your medical knowledge. You have shown courage in the face of danger, but..." The word hung in the air like a dark cloud. Park's hope began to fade. "But you remain too primitive, too violent, too unpredictable. The vote of this council is final and unanimous. Earth's request for membership is denied." The words hit Park like a physical blow. 3 years of work. 3 years of proving humanity's worth. All for nothing. "Furthermore," Velox said, his voice growing colder, "Earth will be placed under economic sanctions. No trade with Federation worlds. No access to Federation technology. No travel beyond your solar system. This is for the protection of all civilized species." Sora grabbed Park's arm. Her face was pale, but her eyes were sharp. She had noticed something the others missed. As the council members spoke their rejection, she saw fear in their alien faces. Not disgust or contempt, but actual fear. The guards, tall beings in silver armor, moved forward. "The humans will leave immediately," one said in perfect English. As they walked through the long corridors back to their ship, Park felt numb. How would he tell Earth that they had failed? How would he explain that humanity was now completely cut off from the galaxy? Sora was quiet until they reached their small Earth ship. Once inside, she turned to Park with excitement in her eyes. "They're afraid of us," she said. "What?" Park looked at her in confusion. "They just rejected us. They think we're primitive." "No, listen to me." Sora pulled up her recordings on the tablet. "Look at their body language. The way Velox's lower arms trembled when he spoke about human unpredictability. The way the Sethrans kept coiling and uncoiling. That's fear, not superiority." Park watched the recordings again. Slowly, he began to see what Sora meant. The aliens weren't acting like beings who thought humans were beneath them. They were acting like beings who saw humans as a threat. Their ship left Nexus Prime and began the long journey back to Earth. During the trip, Sora worked day and night, analyzing every piece of data they had collected over 3 years of negotiations. On Earth, Admiral Lee Jae-ho received the news in the Global Defense Command Center. The huge screens around him showed the positions of human ships throughout the solar system. All of them were now trapped inside an invisible prison. "Complete blockade, reported Captain Shinwoo Jin from his patrol ship near Jupiter. "Alien vessels at every jump point. Nothing gets in or out." Lee stared at the tactical display. Humanity had spent decades reaching for the stars, only to be locked in their own backyard. But Lee had fought in wars before. He knew that sometimes the enemy's greatest mistake was underestimating their opponent. Dr. Yang Hyejin burst into the command center, her face flushed with excitement and anger. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the alien technology we've encountered. There are patterns, weaknesses we never noticed before." "What kind of weaknesses?" Lee asked. "They're faster than light drives, work on principles we can understand, maybe even improve on. And their communications, they're using quantum entanglement, but in a very basic way." Engineer Choi Minho joined them carrying a tablet full of technical diagrams. "If Dr. Yang is right, we might not need their permission to leave the solar system. We might be able to build our own way out." When Park and Sora finally returned to Earth, they brought with them the most important discovery of all. Hidden in the diplomatic files, encrypted and buried deep, Sora had found the real reason for humanity's rejection. She called a meeting of Earth's leaders in the secure briefing room beneath the Global Defense Command. The room was small and plain, with a single table and a few chairs. But the information Sora was about to share would change everything. The council didn't reject us because we're primitive, she began, putting her findings on the main screen. They rejected us because we're not. The screen showed alien documents translated into English, psychological profiles of humans, predictions about human development, projections of what would happen if humans joined the Federation. According to their own scientists, Sora continued, humans have something they call adaptive intelligence. We don't just learn new things, we improve on them. We take their technology and make it better. We solve problems they've been struggling with for centuries. President Cho Myung-soo leaned forward in his chair. Are you saying they see us as competition? Worse than that, Sora replied. Their projections show that within 200 years, humans would become the dominant species in the galaxy. Not through conquest, but through pure innovation and adaptation. Admiral Lee stood up and began pacing. So they decided to lock us up before we could threaten their power. But there's more, Sora said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. I found references to something called the human solution. It's scheduled to begin in 5 years. The room went silent. Everyone understood what that meant without Sora having to explain. They're not just keeping us locked up, Park said quietly. They're planning to kill us all. Dr. Lim Hae-won, the head of Earth's Medical Research Division, spoke for the first time. How long do we have? 5 years, Sora repeated. Maybe less if they decide we're developing too quickly. General Nam Kite, who had been silent throughout the briefing, finally spoke. Then we have 5 years to prepare for war. This isn't just about war, President Cho said. This is about survival. If we're going to fight, we need to be smart about it. We need to use what they fear most about us. Our ability to adapt and improve, Yang said, understanding immediately. Over the next few days, Earth's leaders worked around the clock to develop a plan. They couldn't match the aliens in numbers or experience, but they had something the aliens had forgotten how to use: desperation and creativity. Agent Park Soo-bin, Earth's best intelligence officer, was assigned to infiltrate alien communication networks. If humanity was going to survive, they needed to know everything about their enemies. Commander Oh Seung-ho would lead the development of new military tactics and technology. His job was to turn human creativity into weapons the aliens had never seen before. As Park stood on the observation deck of the Global Defense Command, looking out at the stars that were now forbidden to humanity, he thought about the Council's final words. They had called the blockade a protection for civilized species. Soon the galaxy would learn that the most dangerous thing you can do to humans is try to cage them. The Council thought they were protecting themselves from humanity's potential. They had no idea they had just guaranteed it would be unleashed. 2 years had passed since the Council's rejection, and Earth was a world transformed. The alien blockade had been perfect. Not a single human ship could leave the solar system. But the aliens had made one critical mistake. They assumed that isolation would make humans weaker. Engineer Choi Min-ho wiped sweat from his forehead as he stood in the massive underground facility beneath the Australian desert. Around him, hundreds of Earth's best scientists worked on Project Exodus, the most ambitious engineering project in human history. They were building humanity's first faster-than-light drive without any alien help. The power coupling is stable, reported Dr. Yang Hye-jin from across the laboratory. Her hair was shorter now, and her eyes had the tired look of someone who had been working 18-hour days for months. We're getting quantum fluctuations that match the alien signatures we recorded. Min-ho nodded and checked his tablet. The mathematical formulas covering the screen would have been impossible to understand just 2 years ago, but humans had always been good at learning quickly, especially when their lives depended on it. How long until the first test? He asked. 3 weeks, maybe 4, Hye-jin replied. But Min-ho, what we're building, it's not just copying alien technology, it's better, much better. Across the solar system, Captain Shin Woo-jin floated in the command center of his modified patrol ship. The vessel looked the same on the outside, but inside it was packed with new technology that Earth scientists had developed. Hidden sensors that could detect alien ships from twice the normal distance, communication systems that couldn't be intercepted, weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, reported his navigator, Lieutenant Kim Tae-young. It's an alien patrol ship, standard Gorlan design. Wu Jin watched the alien vessel on his screen. For 2 years, these ships had circled the solar system like guards around a prison. The aliens thought they were keeping humans trapped, but they were actually giving humanity something precious. Targets to study. Begin passive scan, Wu Jin ordered. I want to know everything about that ship. Engine output, weapon systems, crew size, even what they had for breakfast. The information flowed across his screens. 2 years of careful observation had given humans a complete understanding of alien technology and tactics. The aliens had no idea they were being watched so carefully. In a hidden facility on Mars, Agent Park Subin sat in front of a wall of computer screens. Her fingers moved quickly across multiple keyboards as streams of alien communication data scrolled past. Breaking alien encryption had taken her team 6 months. Now they could read every message the aliens sent. Admiral, she spoke into her headset. I'm seeing increased chatter about something called Operation Final Star. The timeline has moved up. Admiral Lee Jae-ho's voice crackled through the speakers. How much time do we have? 18 months instead of 5 years, Subin replied, her voice tight with worry. They're accelerating their plans. Something has made them nervous. Subin scrolled through more intercepted messages. The aliens were talking about unusual energy readings from Earth's solar system. Human technology development was happening faster than they had expected. Much faster. In his office beneath Geneva, Admiral Lee studied the intelligence reports that came in daily. The aliens were scared, and scared enemies made dangerous decisions. But Lee had spent his career studying warfare, and he knew that fear could also make enemies make mistakes. Dr. Kim So-ra entered his office carrying a tablet full of biological data. Admiral, I've been analyzing the alien physiology data we've collected. Each of the Council species has specific weaknesses we can exploit. What kind of weaknesses? Lee asked. The Velox depend on a specific type of radiation for their metabolism. Block it and they become helpless. The Sethrans have a nervous system that's vulnerable to certain sound frequencies. The Gorlans look tough, but their internal structure is actually quite fragile. So-ra sat down across from Lee's desk. But Admiral, there's something else. Something I found in their genetic codes. What is it? They're old. All of them. Not just individually, but as species. Their evolution stopped millions of years ago. They've become so dependent on technology that they've forgotten how to adapt naturally. Lee leaned back in his chair. And humans? We're still evolving. Still adapting. Still changing. That's why they fear us. We represent something they lost long ago. Meanwhile, Dr. Lim Hae-won worked in her laboratory deep beneath Seoul. The room was filled with equipment that hadn't existed 2 years ago. Humanity's medical technology had advanced by decades in the time since the blockade began. But Hae-won wasn't working on medicine. She was working on weapons. The virus is ready for testing, she told her assistant, Dr. Yoon Da-eun. It's designed specifically for Velox physiology. Non-lethal, but it will disable their ability to process information for several hours. Da-eun looked uncomfortable. Are we really going to use biological weapons? Hae-won stopped working and looked at her assistant. Da-eun, they're planning to kill every human in existence. Every child, every family, everyone we've ever known. I'd rather disable them than see humanity extinct. In orbit around Earth, Commander Oh Seung-ho oversaw the construction of humanity's secret weapon, the Ghost Fleet. These ships were invisible to alien sensors, using technology that humans had developed by studying how light behaved differently in space. How many ships are ready? He asked his chief engineer. 57, sir. All equipped with the new quantum drive systems. They can move faster than anything the aliens have, and they can't be detected. Oh looked out at the construction yard where hundreds of workers assembled more ships. Each vessel was small, fast, and deadly. The aliens expected humans to fight like humans always had, with big ships and direct confrontation. They were going to be very surprised. On the far side of the moon, physicist Kang Yu-na made a discovery that would change everything. She had been studying how human consciousness interacted with quantum fields, and what she found defied everything scientists thought they knew about physics. It's impossible, she told her research team, but the data doesn't lie. Human brains can actually influence quantum probability fields, not in any way we can control yet, but the effect is measurable. Her assistant, Dr. Park Hyun-woo, looked at the readings in disbelief. Are you saying humans have some kind of psychic ability? Not psychic, Yuna corrected. Quantum. Our consciousness operates on a level that can actually change how matter behaves at the smallest scale. If we can learn to focus this ability—" She didn't finish the sentence, but everyone in the room understood. Humans might have a natural ability that could be turned into the ultimate weapon. Back in her intelligence center, Agent Subin intercepted a message that made her blood run cold. The aliens had discovered unusual quantum readings coming from human space. They were moving up their timeline again. "Admiral," she called Lee immediately. "We have 12 months, not 18. And there's something else. They're not just planning to attack Earth. They've been doing this to other species for thousands of years. Any species that shows too much potential gets eliminated." Lee felt anger burn in his chest. "How many?" "Hundreds of species, Admiral. Maybe thousands. And now they're coming for us." As Lee ended the call, he looked out his window at the city of Geneva below. Millions of people going about their daily lives, not knowing that in 1 year, aliens would try to wipe humanity from existence. But the aliens had made a mistake. They had given humans something that no species in the galaxy possessed anymore: a reason to fight for survival. And humans had spent their entire evolution learning how to survive against impossible odds. In the Australian facility, Minho and Hyejin prepared for the first test of their faster-than-light drive. The small test ship sat in the center of the underground chamber, surrounded by monitoring equipment. "Beginning power-up sequence," Hyejin announced. The ship began to glow with an energy that looked different from alien technology. Where alien drives produced a cold blue light, the human drive created a warm golden glow that seemed almost alive. "Quantum field stable," Minho reported. "All systems green. Initiating jump in 3, 2, 1. The ship vanished. For a moment, nothing happened. Then it reappeared exactly where it had started, but the instruments showed it had traveled to the edge of the solar system and back in less than a second. Hyejin stared at the readings in amazement. "Minho, this isn't just faster than alien technology. It's faster than anything should be possible." "How much faster?" he asked. 10 times faster than their best ships," she whispered. "Maybe more." Around the solar system, similar breakthroughs were happening in dozens of facilities. Humans weren't just preparing for war. They were revolutionizing the very nature of technology itself. The aliens thought they were giving humans time to accept their fate. Instead, they had given humanity time to become something the galaxy had never seen before. In 12 months, they would learn what humans could accomplish when they had nothing left to lose. 6 months remained until the alien extermination fleet would arrive at Earth. The solar system had become the most heavily fortified place in human history, but it looked nothing like a traditional military base. Every asteroid, every moon, every piece of space debris had been turned into something deadly. General Nam Kite floated in the command center of Ceres Station, watching as automated systems installed the final weapons platforms on the largest asteroid in the belt. The rock looked the same from the outside, but inside it was hollow, filled with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "Status report," he requested from his tactical officer. "All major asteroids are now armed and operational, sir," Lieutenant Colonel Han Min-soo replied. "We have gravitational wave generators that can crush ships from the inside out, quantum displacement bombs that can make matter forget how to exist, and the neural disruptors that Dr. Yuna developed." Nam nodded with satisfaction. The aliens expected to find humans cowering on Earth, waiting for death. Instead, they would find that the entire solar system had become a trap designed by the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. On the hidden side of Luna, Dr. Lim Hae-won supervised the loading of biological weapons into specially designed missiles. Each weapon was tailored for a specific alien species, based on the genetic data that Dr. Sora had analyzed. But these weren't designed to kill. They were designed to disable, to confuse, to make the aliens helpless without making them dead. "Are you sure these will work?" asked Dr. Yoon Da-eun, who had become Hae-won's most trusted assistant. "I've tested them on alien tissue samples we've collected over the years," Hae-won replied. "The Velox virus will make them unable to think clearly for hours. The Sethran frequency weapon will paralyze their nervous systems temporarily. The Gorlin chemical agent will make their rock-like skin soft and vulnerable." Da-eun looked troubled. "Why not just kill them? They're planning to exterminate us." Hae-won stopped her work and looked at her assistant seriously. "Because if we become killers, We prove they were right about us. We're not fighting to become like them. We're fighting to stay human. In the depths of space beyond Pluto, Commander Oh Sung-ho led the Ghost Fleet through their final training exercises. 57 ships moved through space like shadows, completely invisible to any known detection system. Each ship was small, fast, and carried weapons that could punch holes through the heaviest alien armor. "Begin attack pattern 7, Oh commanded through his neural link. The new communication system allowed the fleet to coordinate without sending any signals that could be intercepted. The ships moved like a school of fish, each one knowing exactly where the others were without needing to look. They struck practice targets with precision that would have been impossible using traditional weapons and sensors. "Sir," reported Captain Lee Sungmin from the lead scout ship, "we've tested every scenario the analysts could think of. We're ready." Oh smiled grimly. The aliens had ships that were bigger and more powerful than anything humans had built, but they had never fought an enemy they couldn't see coming. Meanwhile, Agent Park Subin worked from her secret communication center, reaching out to alien species that had been oppressed by the Council for thousands of years. The message was simple: humanity was going to fight back, and they wanted allies. The responses came slowly at first, then in growing numbers. Species that had been enslaved, exploited, or simply ignored by the Council were eager to hear about someone willing to stand up to their oppressors. "We have confirmed contact with 47 different species," Subin reported to Admiral Lee during their daily briefing. 17 of them are willing to provide intelligence about Council military positions. 8 are willing to provide material support. And 3 are willing to join us in open rebellion. Lee studied the star map that showed where these potential allies were located. "What about the others?" "Too scared to act," Subin replied. "The Council has been very effective at teaching fear. But Admiral, even the scared ones are watching. If we win, they'll join us. If we lose, we won't lose," Lee said with quiet confidence. "We can't afford to." Across the solar system, Dr. Yang Hee-jin and engineer Choi Min-ho put the finishing touches on Project Exodus. The faster-than-light drive they had created was now installed in 200 ships of various sizes. But more importantly, they had discovered something that changed everything. "The quantum signatures are wrong," Hee-jin told Min-ho as they reviewed the latest test data. "Our drives don't just move through space faster than alien technology. They move through space differently." "What do you mean?" Min-ho asked. "Alien FTL works by folding space-time. Ours works by stepping outside space-time entirely. We're not traveling faster through the universe. We're traveling around it." Min-ho stared at the equations on Hye-jin's screen. That means we can appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly, and more importantly, we can appear anywhere without the aliens knowing we're coming until we're already there." In her research facility, physicist Kang Yu-na made the breakthrough that would give humanity its greatest advantage. She had learned to focus the quantum consciousness effect that she had discovered. Humans could now directly influence matter at the subatomic level just by concentrating. "It requires training," she explained to General Nam during a demonstration. "But a trained human can make solid matter become liquid, or make energy fields collapse, or even make gravity work differently in a small area." She held up her hand toward a block of steel. As Nam watched, the metal began to bend and flow like water, even though it remained at room temperature. "How many people can learn this?" Nam asked. "Everyone, with enough practice," Yuna replied. "It's not a special gift. It's part of being human. We just never knew how to use it before." Dr. Kim So-ra spent her time studying the psychological profiles of the Council members. If humanity was going to win this war, they needed to understand not just alien technology, but alien thinking. "They're creatures of habit," she explained to the strategy team. "They've been in power for so long that they can't imagine losing. They'll use the same tactics they've used for thousands of years because those tactics have always worked." "What tactics are those?" asked Intelligence Officer Yoon Da-un. "Overwhelming force applied directly," So-ra replied. "They'll bring their biggest ships and attack Earth head-on. They won't expect humans to scatter throughout the galaxy and attack their homeworld simultaneously. The strategy sessions continued day and night. Every detail of the coming battle was planned and replanned. Humans had always been good at war, but now they were applying that skill with the desperation of a species facing extinction. President Cho Myung-soo addressed the world from the Global Defense Command Center. His speech was broadcast to every human settlement in the solar system, from the mining colonies on Mercury to the research stations beyond Neptune. "My fellow humans," he began, "in 6 months, we will face the greatest threat in our species' history, but we will not face it as victims. We will face it as the inheritors of millions of years of human survival, adaptation, and growth." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "They call us primitive. They call us violent. They call us dangerous to galactic peace. They're right about one thing. We are dangerous. We're dangerous to anyone who thinks they can cage the human spirit." The speech continued for 20 minutes, but the message was simple. Humanity would not go quietly into extinction. They would fight, and they would win, not just for themselves but for every species that had ever been crushed under the Council's rule. In the final months before the invasion, humanity worked with a unity that had never been seen before. National boundaries meant nothing. Religious differences were set aside. Political arguments were forgotten. There was only one thing that mattered: survival. The alien fleet was already on its way, moving slowly across the galaxy with the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. They had done this hundreds of times before to hundreds of species. It was always the same. The targeted species would panic, then beg, then die. But the aliens had never faced humans before. They had never encountered a species that had spent its entire evolution learning to turn disadvantages into advantages. They had never fought an enemy that became more dangerous when cornered. Commander Oh Seung-ho stood on the observation deck of his flagship, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed forbidden. In a few hours, the Ghost Fleet would make its first jump beyond the solar system. Their mission was to scout alien positions and prepare for the counterattack that would come immediately after the aliens reached Earth. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a message from Agent Subin. Our alien allies are ready to begin their uprisings as soon as we give the signal." Oh nodded. The galaxy was about to learn that the Council's greatest mistake wasn't rejecting humanity's membership application. Their greatest mistake was giving humans time to prepare for war. As O's ship activated its quantum drive and vanished into the space between spaces, a new chapter in galactic history began. The age of Council dominance was ending, and the age of human expansion was about to dawn. The alien extermination fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, exactly when human intelligence had predicted. 3,000 ships of various sizes spread across space like a dark cloud, their weapons powered and ready to eliminate humanity forever. Admiral Velox Thran stood on the bridge of his flagship. The massive dreadnought Eternal Dominion. Around him, holographic displays showed the pathetic human solar system spread out like a target range. This would be quick and clean, just like the elimination of the other primitive species over the centuries. "Begin scanning for human vessels," he ordered his tactical officer. "I want to know their defensive positions before we begin the cleansing." The scans came back showing exactly what Velox had expected. A few small ships near Earth probably trying to evacuate civilians. Some mining equipment scattered through the asteroid belt. Nothing that could threaten his fleet. "Sir," his sensor operator reported, "we're detecting some unusual energy readings from the asteroid belt. But they appear to be just mining equipment." Velox's forearms gestured dismissively. "Humans trying to hide in their minds. Pathetic. Begin the advance. All ships target Earth for orbital bombardment." The massive fleet began moving forward, confident and unstoppable. They had done this so many times before that it had become routine. Find the primitive species, destroy their military forces, eliminate their population, claim their resources. On Earth, Admiral Lee Jae-ho watched the alien fleet approach on his command screens. Around him, the Global Defense Command Center hummed with quiet activity. No panic, no fear, just professionals doing their jobs. "They're taking the bait," reported Captain Shin Woo-jin from his hidden position behind Jupiter. All ships moving toward Earth in standard formation. No scouts, no advance guard. They're overconfident, Lee smiled coldly. Overconfidence had been the downfall of many enemies throughout human history. Begin Phase 1. Signal Commander O. In the space between galaxies, Commander O Seung-ho received the signal on his quantum communicator. Around him, the ghost fleet materialized from the space outside normal reality, their impossible drives allowing them to appear anywhere in the universe instantly. All ships, O commanded through his neural link, begin simultaneous strikes on Velok's homeworld. Sethran Central Command and Gorlan Industrial Systems. Remember, we're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to paralyze them. 57 invisible ships scattered across space and time, appearing above alien worlds that had never been attacked in thousands of years. The aliens on these worlds had no idea that war had even begun. Above the blue-green world of Veloxia Prime, 12 human ships appeared in perfect silence. The planet below had no military defenses because it had never needed them. No enemy had ever reached this far into council space. O's flagship descended through the atmosphere toward the massive city where the Velox government controlled half the galaxy. Citizens looked up in confusion at the strange golden glow of human quantum drives. They had never seen technology like this before. Deploy neural disruptors, O commanded. Invisible waves of energy swept across the planet. Every Velox within 1,000 miles suddenly found their four-chambered brains unable to process complex thoughts. They weren't hurt, but they couldn't understand what was happening or coordinate any response. Similar attacks were happening simultaneously on dozens of worlds. The Sethran command centers fell to sonic weapons that paralyzed their snake-like nervous systems. Gorlan industrial worlds found their rock-hard skin becoming soft and vulnerable to even the gentlest touch. Back in Earth's solar system, the alien fleet continued its advance, completely unaware that their homeworlds were already under attack. They were focused on the small blue planet ahead of them, planning how they would eliminate the humans quickly and efficiently. Sir, the tactical officer on Velox's flagship reported, we're receiving some unusual signals from the homeworlds, but they're probably just routine communications. Velox wasn't paying attention to communications. He was studying the tactical display that showed Earth growing larger on his screens. Soon this troublesome species would be gone, and the galaxy would be safe from their chaotic influence. Range to Earth? He asked. 2 hours at current speed, sir. Excellent. Begin charging orbital bombardment systems. What Velox didn't know was that the asteroid belt his ships were now entering wasn't filled with mining equipment. It was filled with the most advanced weapons ever created by human minds. General Nam Kite waited in his command center buried deep inside Ceres asteroid. Around him, automated systems tracked every alien ship as they moved deeper into the trap. The asteroids looked normal from the outside, but inside they were hollow and packed with weapons that the aliens couldn't even detect. They're in position, reported his tactical officer. All major alien vessels are now within the asteroid field. Nam activated his communicator. Dr. Yuna, begin quantum field manipulation. Throughout the asteroid belt, trained humans focused their consciousness on the quantum fields around the alien ships. Space itself began to behave strangely. Gravity became unpredictable. Energy fields fluctuated randomly. Matter began forgetting how to maintain its normal properties. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, alarms began sounding as the ship's systems started failing for no apparent reason. Report, Velox shouted, his voice showing the first hint of concern. Sir, we're experiencing massive system failures across all ships, his chief engineer replied. Engines are losing power, weapons won't charge, even our gravity generators are malfunctioning. That's impossible. Run full diagnostics. The diagnostics showed something that should have been impossible. The fundamental forces of physics were behaving differently around the human solar system. Gravity was stronger in some places and weaker in others. Electromagnetic fields were shifting randomly. Even time seemed to be moving at different speeds for different ships. Sir, the sensor operator called out in panic. The asteroids? They're not asteroids. On his screen, Velox watched in horror as the rocks around his fleet began opening like flowers. Inside each one was a weapon system unlike anything he had ever seen. Not the crude projectile weapons he had expected from humans, but devices that seemed to bend reality itself. The first wave of human weapons fired, but they didn't shoot energy or matter. They shot changes in the laws of physics. Alien ships found their hulls becoming liquid while their engines tried to push them through space that was no longer there. All ships, retreat immediately. Velox ordered, but retreat was impossible. The human weapons weren't just attacking the ships. They were attacking the space around the ships. The alien fleet found itself trapped in bubbles of altered reality, where normal technology simply didn't work. Dr. Lim Haiwan's biological weapons launched next, filling space with clouds of specially designed viruses and chemical agents. The aliens who breathed them found their minds becoming foggy and their bodies weak. They weren't dying, but they couldn't think clearly enough to fight back. On Earth, Admiral Lee watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. The alien fleet that had come to exterminate humanity was being systematically disabled by weapons they couldn't understand and tactics they had never encountered. "Sir," Captain Wu Jin reported from his hidden position, "the aliens are trying to send distress signals to their homeworlds." "Let them try," Lee replied. "Agent Subin, begin Phase 2. Throughout the galaxy, Agent Subin's network of alien rebels received the signal they had been waiting for. On worlds that had been oppressed by the Council for thousands of years, uprisings began simultaneously. Species that had been slaves found weapons and turned against their masters. Colonies that had been strip-mined for resources declared independence. The Council's empire, which had seemed unshakable for millennia, began crumbling as oppressed species across the galaxy rose up at the same moment. The timing was perfect because all of the Council's military forces were either attacking Earth or being paralyzed by human quantum weapons. In space around Earth, the alien fleet was completely helpless. Their ships floated dead in space, their crews conscious but unable to operate their technology. Some ships had crew members who were temporarily paralyzed. Others had crews whose minds couldn't focus enough to remember how their equipment worked. Velox found himself trapped on a ship where gravity worked. Randomly, and electronics shut down whenever he tried to use them. For the first time in his long life, he felt completely powerless. "What are they?" he whispered to his tactical officer who was struggling to stand in the shifting gravity. "I don't know, sir," the officer replied. "Nothing in our databases describes technology like this. It's like they're using the universe itself as a weapon." Commander O's voice suddenly filled the bridge, broadcast from the human fleet that had somehow appeared all around them without being detected. "Admiral Velox." O's voice was calm and professional. "This is Commander Oh Seung-ho of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is disabled, your homeworlds are under our control, and your empire is collapsing as oppressed species across the galaxy revolt against your rule." Velox tried to respond, but his communication systems were dead. "You came here to eliminate humanity," Oh continued. "Instead, you've just witnessed the end of Council dominance in this galaxy. But we're not going to kill you. We're not going 3 months after the battle that lasted only 6 hours. The galaxy was unrecognizable. The great assembly hall on Nexus Prime, where humanity had once been rejected, now hosted representatives from over 300 species. Most of them had never been allowed to speak before the old council. Ambassador Park Dong-woo stood at the same podium where Admiral Velox had once pronounced humanity's rejection. But now Park wore the simple blue sash of an elected representative, not the formal robes of a supplicant. Around him, delegates from across the galaxy waited to hear what humanity would do with the power they had won. 3 months ago, Park began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast hall, the council voted to eliminate humanity because they feared what we might become. Today I stand before you not as a conqueror, but as a servant of the new Galactic Federation. In the audience, former council members sat alongside former slaves. Velox himself was present, no longer wearing the golden robes of supreme authority, but the simple gray clothing of a private citizen. His forearms were steady, but his eyes showed the weariness of someone whose entire worldview had collapsed. "The first law of the new Federation," Park continued, "is that no single species may rule over others. The second law is that all species have the right to develop according to their own nature. The third law is that any species that attempts to return to the old ways of domination will face the combined opposition of all free peoples." Dr. Kim So-ra watched from the observation gallery, recording everything for the historical archives. She had spent the past 3 months studying how quickly the galaxy had changed once the Council's grip was broken. Species that had been enslaved for millennia were already showing remarkable recovery. Worlds that had been strip-mined were being restored using technology that combined human innovation with alien knowledge. But the most important change, Park was saying, is not in our laws but in our purpose. The Federation exists not to control but to protect, not to dominate but to serve, not to create fear but to encourage hope. On Earth, Dr. Yang Heejin and engineer Choi Min-ho worked in a laboratory that was no longer hidden underground. The quantum drive technology they had developed was now being shared freely with any species that wanted to learn. Their latest project was even more ambitious. A transportation network that would allow instant travel between any 2 points in the galaxy. The mathematics are stable, Heejin reported as she reviewed the latest calculations. We can create permanent quantum tunnels between star systems. No more need for ships or fuel. Just step through a gateway and arrive anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Min-ho smiled as he watched the test results. The aliens spent millions of years developing their technology. We've surpassed it in 3 years. It's not just the technology, Heejin replied. It's how we think about technology. They saw it as a tool for control. We see it as a tool for freedom. Their conversation was interrupted by a communication from Commander Oh Sung-ho, who was overseeing the dismantling of the old council's military infrastructure. Thousands of weapons designed to oppress rebellious species were being converted into tools for exploration and construction. The last of the orbital bombardment platforms has been destroyed. Oh reported. Every species in the galaxy can now develop without fear of sudden extermination. On the former slave world of Cathara, General Nam Kite supervised the construction of the galaxy's first interspecies military academy. Young beings from dozens of different worlds trained together, learning not how to conquer, but how to protect their home systems from any future threats. The training is going well, he told his instructors during their weekly meeting. These young people understand something their ancestors forgot. Military power exists to protect the weak, not to exploit them. Lieutenant Colonel Han Min-soo, who had become the Academy's chief tactical instructor, nodded in agreement. Sir, they're also developing new approaches to warfare that none of us had considered. When species work together instead of against each other, the possibilities are endless. In her medical research facility, Dr. Lim Hae-won had abandoned weapons development entirely. Instead, she led a team of researchers from 20 different species, working to cure diseases that had plagued the galaxy for thousands of years. The Velox genetic disorder that causes memory loss in their elderly, she explained to her assistant, Dr. Yoon Da-eun, we can fix it using a combination of human neural research and Sethran biological techniques. Da-eun looked at the treatment protocols with amazement. In 3 months, we've made more medical advances than the Council achieved in 1,000 years. That's because the Council saw medical knowledge as something to be hoarded and sold, Hae-won replied. We see it as something to be shared and improved. Agent Park Soo-bin, now serving as the Federation's Director of Intelligence, spent her time coordinating information, sharing between species that had been enemies for millennia. Her network of former rebels had become a galaxy-wide communication system that allowed instant coordination of resources and aid. The Gorlan mining. Colonies need food supplies, she reported during the daily Federation briefing. The Altarian agricultural worlds have surplus grain. I'm coordinating transport ships to deliver aid. President Cho Myung-soo, who had been elected as the Federation's first rotating president, reviewed reports from across the galaxy. The position would rotate every 2 years between species, ensuring that no single group could accumulate too much power. The transformation is happening faster than we projected, he told his cabinet. Productivity is up across all sectors. Crime is down on every world. Even the birth rate has increased as species feel safe enough to raise families again. But perhaps the most remarkable change was happening in the laboratories of physicist Kang Yu-na, who had continued her research into human quantum consciousness. What she had discovered changed everything scientists thought they knew about intelligence itself. It's not unique to humans, she explained to a gathering of researchers from across the galaxy. Every intelligent species has some degree of quantum consciousness ability. The difference is that humans never forgot how to use it. A Sethran scientist raised one of her tentacles. Are you saying we can all learn to manipulate matter with our minds? Not just manipulate, Yuna replied. Create, improve, transform. The old council spent so much time using technology to control their subjects that they forgot technology was supposed to help consciousness grow, not replace it. The implications were staggering. If every species could learn to use quantum consciousness, the galaxy could develop in ways that had never been imagined. Art, science, philosophy, and technology could advance together instead of being separated by the artificial barriers the Council had created. On Nexus Prime, the Great Transformation was symbolized by changes to the Assembly Hall itself. The 12 massive thrones had been removed and replaced with simple seating that could accommodate representatives from any species. The walls that had once displayed Council propaganda now showed artwork created by beings from hundreds of different worlds. Ambassador Park stood once again at the podium, but this time he was announcing the results of the galaxy's first democratic election. Every species had been allowed to vote for the Federation's leadership positions, regardless of their technological level or economic power. The new Senate will consist of representatives from 437 different species, Park announced. The rotating presidency will move between species every 2 years. And most importantly, any decision that affects the entire galaxy must be approved by a majority of all member species. In the audience, Velox listened with an expression that might have been amazement or sorrow. After the session, he approached Park in the corridor outside the hall. "Ambassador," the former council leader said, his voice quiet and thoughtful, "I must ask you something. Why did you spare us? Why didn't you eliminate the council species as we planned to eliminate you?" Park considered the question seriously. "Because we learned something in our isolation that you forgot over the millennia. Strength isn't about who you can destroy. It's about who you choose to save. But we were your enemies. We planned genocide." "Yes," Park replied. "But you were also afraid. Fear makes people do terrible things. We chose to remove the source of your fear rather than remove you." Velox's forearms trembled slightly. "And what was the source of our fear?" "The possibility that someone else might treat you the way you treated others," Park said simply. "Now that everyone is equal, no one needs to fear being dominated." As Park walked away, Velox remained in the corridor, finally understanding what humanity had brought to the galaxy. Not superior technology or military might, but something much more dangerous to tyrants. The idea that power should be used to serve others, not control them. Dr. Kim So-ra completed her final report on the transformation of galactic civilization. Her conclusion was simple but profound. The Council's greatest mistake was not underestimating human military capability. Their greatest mistake was underestimating human moral capability. They expected humans to become conquerors. Instead, humans became liberators. On Earth, in the same observation deck where Ambassador Park had once looked out at stars that seemed forbidden,